All right. I want to tell the story of the Paria pipeline. I want you to imagine what you would have done in this moment. They say that, pressure makes diamonds, but in some instances, pressure can kill, right? So February 25th, 2022, 5 divers descended into the Gulf of Paria off the coast of Trinidad. It was supposed to be a routine maintenance, a simple job inside a 30-inch pipeline, but within seconds, that pipeline basically became a bomb. A sudden pressure event, basically a vacuum, sucked 4 men into the darkness. Only 1 man would make it back out alive. So picture this: 5 men in full gear, working side by side, trusting their training, their teammates, and their equipment. Then a confined steel pipe the size of a manhole submerged under the sea. And then the unthinkable happens. Without warning, the ocean itself turns against them. A pressure drop due to a malfunction creates a giant suction, tears through the pipeline. In an instant, the 4 men are sucked into the darkness, dragged hundreds of feet inside. 1 man, Christopher Boudram, is sucked into the pipe, and he could feel the pull, the roar, the silence that followed. In the darkness, he screams the names of his fellow divers. No answer. Inside that pipe is pitch black. The air is poison. It's barely big enough to move. He can taste the fuel in his mouth, smell in his lungs, that his lungs are burning. He tries to shout again. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, he starts to hear his coworkers yell back. Basically, through this process, they learn that all of them are alive. They're all in the pipeline, and they're scared. Some of them are severely injured more than others, and they don't know what to do. They're yelling back and forth. They think that they're going to get rescued because they know they're there and somebody's going to come get them. Christopher said everything in his mind and his body started telling him to move. And he convinced the gentleman that was closest to him to start the journey with him. Now, there was an added fear factor here because they weren't quite sure which way they were facing. They were pulled in so fast with no warning, basically instantaneously. They weren't sure which was the right direction. If they went the wrong direction, they had a 0 chance of survival, but they just decided to start moving forward. And Christopher decided to just start moving the way his head was facing and hope that was the right direction. And he did not know that. So the 2 of them actually started to move through the pipeline. And the gentleman that was traveling with Chris, they were sort of traveling side by side. The gentleman that came back further than Chris was and met up with Chris basically. And after the first stretch of pipe, understanding that this pipeline is typically filled with oil, and there was some residue oil in it, there was some residue water in it. And there were times where they had to go under the water without knowing when they would reach the next air pocket. And they went through a particularly long one. And Chris said he thought that he was going to die. His lungs were burning. He thought this is it. And as soon as he felt that panic moment, he got to the air pocket, and the guy behind him, he reached back and helped him come forward. His coworker said, "I'm done. I'm going to wait for rescue. I almost died. I'm not going to go any further." So now Chris has this thought, and he's already decided that no one is coming. He did not feel good waiting for rescue. At this moment, he's there with the gentleman, decided to stop. Logic dies. Instinct takes over. He could have waited for rescue. He could have waited with the other guys, but what he decided was he was going to fight for his life. The fuel, the sludge, the possibility of death, the no light, the no map, the no promise of survival, all that didn't matter. He said a shift happened inside of him, a decision that came from somewhere deeper than thought. He took off the rest of what he could, and he just started crawling. Pain, through panic, stench of fear, the disgustingness of the fuel. He just kept going, no matter what. He heard a little voice inside him saying, "Move, move, move." And that's what he listened to. And he said it felt like hours. It felt like forever. He just kept going and going. And he finally saw a glimmer of light. And he said he didn't know if it was real. He didn't care. There was something finally he could focus on besides the darkness. And then, like a man reborn, he burst out into the pipeline, into the open water. He said he was gasping, flailing, screaming for life. He had done it. He made it through the darkness, through death itself, and made it back. The men who stayed behind, they waited to be saved, but rescue never came. The investigation that followed exposed what we already know too well: negligence, poor safety protocols, confusion, bureaucracy. But beneath the politics lies a deeper story. A human went. 5 men went under that day. 4 believed help was coming, and 1 decided to help himself. Think about that moment. The pipeline, the darkness, the choice. Because we've all been there in some form. Maybe not so dire, but maybe not underwater, but trapped in failure, fear, indecision, waiting for someone or something to pull us out. Here's the truth. No one's coming. Not in time. Not for this. Survival means moving even when you can't see the way out. Sometimes leadership means acting when your hands are shaking and your lungs are burning. Christopher Budenheim didn't survive because he wasn't afraid. He survived because he moved anyway. In the absence of light, belief must become your navigation system. When you can't see your way out, your faith must become your eyes. So when you have those pipeline moments in life where everything is collapsing around you and it just feels overwhelming, waiting feels safe, but it's your action